So, good evening, guys, and you're welcome to the show. This is Sports 101. We are live on Taddy FM as well as YouTube. If you are new to this channel, this is Sports 101, where everything sport is discussed. So, on Sundays, all we do is we bring you a review of everything that has happened in the week, throughout the week in the world of sports. And I can bet you there's been lots of things that have happened in the course of the week, from Asamoah Gyan's retirement to seemingly the Saudi Arabian raid in the world of football, to basketball, the draft happened, Victor Wambayama, the noise surrounding him. So the world of sports is not short of news, and that is why we are on the show this evening to literally review everything that has happened in the world of sport on the show this evening. My guys are already here, and we'll delve deep. We'll do a deep nose dive. We're not doing what happened with the submarine and Titanic. No, that's not what we're doing. But this is sports. This is football, basketball, table tennis, whatever sport, we have you covered live on the show. So please, if you're new to the channel, do us the honor by subscribing to our channel. Click on the subscription button. Make sure you click on the notification button. Get notified whenever we post a video. And if you are, a returning lover of the show, you're welcome to the show. This is our Sunday review show. We are also live on Taddy FM 99.1. You cannot get the best of sports anywhere. Sunday evening, 7 o'clock to 9 p.m. So before we, do a detailed analysis of what we have planned for you today on the show, let me run by you what we are going to talk about on the show. So in the course of the week, for me, one person that has been vilified most by Ghanaians, Asamoah Gyan, finally gave us the news that most of us knew. He retired not just from international football, he retired from the game that he's literally known throughout his life, football, and he released a statement together with his manager, and FIFA has actually acknowledged him. FIFA, if you go to FIFA's Twitter page and FIFA's website, there's an acknowledgement and all of that. Lots of tribute have come in, there's been a lot of pouring. People are, they're saying that when you die, there's little bad news that goes around. We can say that for Asamoah Gyan, because Asamoah Gyan we knew when he was playing the game, and Asamoah Gyan we know now what people are saying about him. There's a little bit of contrasting views here, because when he was playing the game, he was one of those players, Ghanaian players, that was vilified the most, and even up till now, a lot of people vilify him. But when he announced his retirement, all the talk has been good, and all of that. We'll look back at Asamoah Gyan's retirement. Can he be in the conversation for the greatest Ghanaian player that has played the game for the Black Stars? Let's talk about that. A lot of people have actually, are rooting for Asamoah Gyan. They are making a case for Asamoah Gyan. So on the show, myself, Kofi Percy, will take a quick look at Asamoah Gyan. Yeah, in the course of the week as well, FIFA released a series of tournaments, and the host countries and host nations that will handle this tournament for about the next 10 years. And one of the talk in that tournament is the Club World Cup, a novelty which will take place in 2025, let me put it that way. And a lot of people are not really convinced or do not know what this tournament entails. I'll give you news, and I'll tell you everything you need to know about the new format for the Club World Cup tournament, which will have 32 teams, unlike the previous one that has 8 teams, and most of the big teams join in the semi-finals, which will happen on the 12th of December to the 22nd of December this year, as City will be participating. I'll give you all the news, every single detail regarding that particular tournament, which will take place 2 years from now. And also, we will do a proper discussion of what is happening in Saudi Arabia. Why is it that all of a sudden, players who are even in their prime, the stock of Bernardo Silva leaving, the Hakim Ziyech is almost on the verge of joining, Koulibaly. Players who are in their prime are seemingly being poached by Saudi Arabian teams like Al Hilal, Al Nassr, and all of that. What is happening with the Saudi Arabian revolution? This is not new. We've seen we saw some time back it happened in the US. It couldn't stand the test of time. China tried to do it with Guangzhou, Evergrande, and all of that. Remember Oscar for Chelsea? He moved there. Lots of players moved to China. It didn't really happen for them. Saudi Arabia seemed to be the next country that is looking at bringing in superstars or trying to establish their league. We'll do a proper discussion on what is happening in Saudi Arabia. Then when it comes to transfers, Kovacic has already completed his deal to Manchester City. We'll look at what he brings to the Manchester City side. Kai Havertz is almost is a done deal with Arsenal. Just the announcement. We are waiting the announcement. Declan Rice has, from all indications, he's chosen Arsenal over Manchester City. There's lots of talk in the transfer world. What these players mean to these clubs. We'll delve deep into everything transfer. Then the second half of the show, as we've done post the season, we are picking one team in the Premier League or one team in Europe, and we are doing a proper dissection of the team, how their season went. And this evening, we are looking at Arsenal. So for our Arsenal fans, you want to join us on the show, we'll be doing a proper Arsenal discussion, devoid of the fanaticism and the sentiment. So this is the show for you. It's our Sunday review show. Make sure you share the link. And if you're watching us from the diaspora, as always, support this team with your super stickers. Your $10, $5 would go a long way to push the channel. And please share the link. Make sure you share the link. Percy is here. I will not come to Kofi. I said here. Percy, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
How have you been?
I've been good.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been a rainy week, Yeah. It started on Monday, from Thursday through to Sunday. It's been non-stop.
Virtually every day.
Yeah, but we're here.
Yeah.
To talk about sports.
Yes, we are.
What has made your week in terms of sport? I know lots of happenings, I can't sit here and say I am not, Reverend Lucky. I can't, Maybe you are not Percy. Guys, you know what I'm talking about. That's not what we're going to talk about. Putin happened. The submarine happened. This week, lots of things are happening, The planned coup, whether it was a hoax or whatever happened. If Nelson released their book, talk, somebody decided that I'm so rich that I want to, go deep down in the sea and explore what happened some centuries, 100 and something years ago.
Yeah.
Charlie, lots of happenings, but we are here to talk about football. Sports. What's made your week in the sporting world this week?
For this week, in the sporting world, the major happenings have been transfers, the ins and the outs. The last week was the Mbappe saga. Yeah. It was actually last week, and the fire was still not out. This week, it was still there. Apart from that too, the United takeover has been very down. We've not really heard a buzz about it. And when you go to, it's like when you go to Spain, there is virtually very little happening.
Apart from Barcelona, Victor Roque,
and if you go to Italy, apart from Sandro Tonali,
we'll talk about that as well,
and we'll talk about the role of these agents and how they can really be deceptive and be the people who actually drive everything. There are a lot of things that
this is the time their job actually comes into the frame.
You think that there are some of the purchases that it's actually the teams that do it. No, a lot of them, the teams are under pressure by these super agents, Pines Harvey, Kia de la Kian, and Hugo Mendes and these people. For England, that is where the whole business is actually happening. The main news had to be United trying to do a turn away, going to Caicedo instead of Mount, Chelsea giving them a lot of pressure, rejecting bid after bid. And you also talk about Arsenal almost losing Declan Rice to City because of they're trying to do a lot of accounting with City coming in with full swing. It's like Liverpool have really been very quiet. I don't know if it's because, of course, they don't really have that money. And the Saudi raid is still on. They have now, today, like I said, will give you extensive reasons why Saudi is all of a sudden out and doing whatever that they are doing, and why I will say theirs will be more sustainable than that of US, than that of China, than that of Russia.
Okay. All right. So, guys, Percy has, literally given us a rundown of how his weekend went. But let me give you about a quick review of a quick tidbit, some quick tidbits of what's happening in the world of sports. So let me start from basketball, where, over the week or in the course of the week, the draft lottery happened. And obviously, as if you've been following basketball, as we already know, Victor Wembanyama, the French sensation, the young super kid whose noise is akin to the noise of LeBron James. Listen, in the last 10, 15 years, I've looked at all the draft prospects, the number one prospects that have been drafted in the NBA, either from Europe or, from college or high school. This guy is the real deal. The noise surrounding him is akin to the noise that surrounded, LeBron James. Not even Zion Williamson, but he is officially a San Antonio Spurs superstar. He's joined the likes of, Manu Ginobili. He's joined the likes of Tony Parker, who made it from Europe and will be playing in the NBA this season. So if you're an NBA fan, watch out for the San Antonio Spurs and watch out for this kid, Victor Wembanyama. For me, I think that he's the next big thing after LeBron James in terms of draft prospect. We've seen a lot of draft prospects feel as Zion Williamson, the noise surrounding him. He didn't really, or he's yet to hit the height expected of him. Kid Cunningham and all these guys, Michael Fultz, D'Angelo Russell, Lonzo Ball, all these guys, have fizzled, and they've not really stood up to the test of time. But I think one of the reasons why this boy will succeed because he's not an American. Sometimes these Americans feel that, well, it's the NBA when we come, it's all rosy. The Europeans are more hungry. Look at what Luka Doncic is doing. Look at what the Joker has done with Denver Nuggets. That's one of the reasons why I think that this guy will succeed. If you watch him play, he is the real deal. Then also, big news happened. A three-way trade between the Phoenix Suns, the Washington Wizards, and the Golden State Warriors, seeing Bradley Beal join the Phoenix Suns. So we now have a different front three for the Phoenix Suns. There's Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. They sending for me, he's a point guard, Chris Paul, to the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards then trading him to the Golden State Warriors. Is it the final straw for Chris Paul? Should this be his? I mean, is this going to be his last time attempt to win a ring? Because we now have more or less a new trio in Golden State. There's Chris Paul. There's Steph Curry. There's Klay Thompson. And possibly, if Draymond Green does not leave, Draymond Green, for me, I think that is a scary squad for the Golden State Warriors. So that's what's happening in the world of basketball. Now, if you remember in my intro, I spoke about FIFA putting out a list of tournaments that will be hosted in the next 5 to 10 years, and the host nations. One of the talk has been about the Club World Cup. A lot of people are confused. People are saying Liverpool has not qualified. Why is Liverpool have not qualified? Something that will happen in 2025. What is happening? Why has City qualified for that tournament? A tournament that will take place in 2025. So let me give you every single detail regarding this tournament. And if you are watching us, please join us in the comment section. We are live on the show. This is Sports 101. So when is the tournament going to happen? The tournament is going to take place in 2025, which is 2 years from now. There is no specific or tentative date. What FIFA has said is that the tournament is going to take place in June 2025. It's going to take place in summer instead of the usual winter. All the Club World Cup tournaments that have taken place have been played in December, which is winter. But this is different. FIFA is saying that this tournament is going to take place in summer, in June, right after the season ends in May across Europe. Now, the amazing thing is that it's going to take place amongst 32 teams, akin to the International World Cup that we've come to know. And also, one unique thing is that it's going to take place every 4 years, just like the World Cup. So what FIFA has done or is trying to do, use the domestic competitions as a launch pad. So now FIFA is creating a tournament where if you qualify for the Champions League, if you play your domestic league and you gain the points that would make you enter into this tournament, literally you are qualifying to play in the biggest club competition in the world. And it's not going to be yearly as the Champions League is done, but it's going to take place every 4 years. So the first edition is going to take place in 2025. Now, one major bone that seem to be people are trying to lick around is how are teams going to qualify for the tournament. Let me run this by, but before then, the tournament is going to take place traditionally. It's going to take place in the United States, and it will kick off as a new global tournament. And the next edition of the Copa America, which is FIFA's international competition, which usually is among the South American teams, would also take place. Do not forget, it will be held in US between June and July 2024. It's one of the reasons why FIFA had to push it to 2025. It was supposed to be next year, June, but because of the Copa Americas that will take place in US and South America in June, FIFA decided, okay, let's push it a year forward. So US of A is going to host the first ever maiden edition of the FIFA World Club Competition. Now, how do clubs qualify? Now, this is the tricky thing here. There's a guaranteed at least one representative from all 6 FIFA confederation at the 2025 Club World Cup. So UEFA, which is European's governing body, will have 12 clubs competing, made up of the 4 Champions League winners between 2021 and 2024. Again, I want to take my time so that our listeners would, when I'll come back to Percy, and Percy will give us his view on whether he thinks that this will be a success or it will probably be a failure. Look at it. How are teams going to qualify? So Europe is going to have 12 clubs representing, and 4 of those clubs are going to come from Champions League winners from 2000 or 2021 and 2024. So from 2021, we have Liverpool won it in 2020, or Real Madrid. Which club won it in 2021?
It was Chelsea.
Yes, Chelsea won it in 2021 when they beat Manchester City. So Chelsea has qualified. Real Madrid has already qualified. Manchester City has already qualified.
Liverpool is 2019.
Liverpool won it in 2019. So the next edition of the Champions League, which is next season, whoever wins it joins these 3 clubs that have already qualified to give us 4 clubs who have a guaranteed slot. Then, now listen to this. Alongside 8 teams who are going to be determined by a club ranking based on the 4-year period. So in the period of 2021 and 2024, FIFA is going to rank these clubs. And let's not forget, UEFA already ranks these clubs. So based on point accumulation from your league and playing in European competitions, you are going to be, UEFA ranks them. So as we speak, teams like Barcelona, teams like Bayern Munich, teams like PSG have already booked their slot based on the last 4 editions. Barcelona, as a result of them winning this season's La Liga, Bayern Munich, as a result of they winning this season's Bundesliga, PSG, as a result of them winning this season's French league, Napoli, as a result of them winning this season's Italian Serie A. So certain clubs, based on the point accumulation and as a result of them winning their league, have already made their way. But Europe is going to have 12 representatives, 4 of them from the Champions League from 2021 to 2024. Then alongside CONMEBOL. So CONMEBOL is going to be entitled to 6 teams, 4 from the Copa Libertadores. When we talk about the Copa Libertadores, we are talking about South America's version of the Champions League. The same format. FIFA has not changed. So from 2021 to 2024, so the likes of Palmeiras will be there, the likes of River Plate will be there, and other teams that have won it from 2021 through to 2024. So CONMEBOL has already 4 slots. UEFA has already 4 slots, together with teams that have accumulated most points as a result of they playing in their various leagues as well. CONCACAF, which is made up of North and Central America, Asia, and CAF, will be represented by 4 winners from their respective Champions League. So 2021 to 2024 as well. So FIFA wants to be fair, so all teams or all the various federations are fairly represented in terms of their Champions League. So El Ali is making the representation. The team that won, is it WAC?
Zamalek. We'll have Zamalek there. We'll have WAC to be there.
WAC will be there. Zamalek will be there. So next season, whoever wins the CAF Champions League from the African, Confederation is going to make the tournament. El Ali, like I said, have already done it because of their representation. Then from the Oceania region, they will already have just one guaranteed. So it is just like the World Cup, just that this time it is going to be a representation of clubs. And this is the format, how it's going to be like. Just like the World Cup, the 32 teams are going to be grouped in groups of 4. So there are going to be about 8 groups of 4. Then they will play, group stages, the first round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals. Then in 2025, we are going to crown the first or the maiden edition of the winner of FIFA's World Club competition. Guys, in the comment section, what do you make about FIFA's new maiden tournament? Do you think it's going to be a success? And it's going to be held every 4 years. So it will come once in a blue moon, just like the World Cup. It means that it will be highly anticipated and highly, highly competitive. I think that it's going to be exciting, and it might sway lots of excitement away from the Champions League, because if you look at the format, it's going to be like the creme de la creme. Real Madrid, Chelsea, City. You have the best of South America. Now, people who have been denied of South American football and how good they are will have the chance to really see them through major competitions. And I think that Africa would have a shout in here to portray what we have. Quickly, before we move to that Samoan Jambit, what do you make of this tournament, Percy?
Now, this tournament is something that was anticipated a very long time. It was one of the things that you had Gianni Infantino envisaging when he took the reins at FIFA. But then there have been a lot of backlash on this, especially from Alexander Sefren. Just like you said, that it's really going to take away that buzz of the Champions League. Now, you see, I really don't know what FIFA is trying to do. There was something called the Super League that in 2021, it was springing up. And it was shut down instantly from FIFA, from UEFA. Yet, this same FIFA advocated that Africa plays a Super League. And it is about coming off with even Asante Kotoko and the rest having the chance to play. They shut down the Super League in Europe with the intention that, of course, it's going to bring down the competition in UEFA, and it was a selfish thing. How can you get permanent members? But here it was in Africa with Patrick Motsepe, that there should be an African Super League.
That was, put forward by Motsepe. And he is the one fronting it.
I understand. So
not
why
necessarily FIFA?
No. I'm not saying FIFA is the one that is pushing it. I am saying that the same Gianni Infantino, who actually backed Alexander Sefrin to shoot down the the European Super League. Why was it so in support of something like this?
So you think it should shoot down Africa's idea?
No, I am trying to say that there is already CAF Champions League. The idea of Super League is not necessarily to probably push away champions. It's supposed to really make money for the big clubs. Yes. Now, Motsepe also has brought the idea that this CAF Champions League doesn't raise enough for these big clubs. Can you imagine a club like Asante Kotoko being denied the chance to play in the group stages for so many years?
Is it the doing of anybody? Because the format is there. Qualify from
I understand.
Get to play, a two-legged
so then why do you bring a Super League in Africa? That is even just by the way.
Yeah.
The idea of this whole Club World Cup is money.
You think so?
Look at where they are hosting it the first time.
The US. They are hosting it in the US. The reason why they are hosting it in the US is that it's literally a preparation for 2026, because in 2026 US and Mexico are hosting the World Cup. So if you listen to Gianni Infantino, Canada, sorry. If you listen to Gianni Infantino, what he's saying is that as a buzz, as a build-up.
Like
it's more or less like the Confederations Cup as a build-up.
Please,
to
they never mentioned
the World Cup.
They never mentioned anything like they are then shooting down Confederation. There was no statement of that sort.
Because Confederation Cup is already established. You cannot. I mean, they cannot shoot it down.
So if you want a curtain raiser for the World Cup, it is always the Confederations Cup. So why are you now saying that it is a club World Cup to raise it? Club World Cup is played by clubs, not the national teams.
But
he is talking about stadium, probably use of facilities.
Yes.
There is always a Confederations Cup. Lucky, listen. Now, we all understand that with this issue of, it started from 2010 World Cup. Since US and Great Britain lost their chance to actually host 2010, 2014, and even 2018, bringing about the FIFA scandal and Michael Garcia and all of his people with the FBI trying to probe into FIFA and shoot down every idea. It is so clear that had it not been the fact that they had lost their chance, FIFA had always been corrupt. From Hawaii Avalanche. So what I'm trying to say is
let's wrap up on this.
What I'm trying to say is that
it was just tidbit.
What I'm trying to say is that
it's just for the money.
It is about the money.
It's about the money.
Because why would you decide to do something like
Percy believes that this but do you think it's a good tournament?
Listen, it's a good tournament.
We get to the excitement.
But listen, there is nothing that matches the World Cup. No, the World Cup should be the only thing that has this buzz around it.
All right, guys, Percy has a stance. I think that it's going to be an amazing tournament to have 32 top clubs. Maybe the African teams are not A-list, but for South America, for Europe, and even some Asian countries like the countries from Japan, Saudi Arabia. Now you know what is happening in Saudi Arabia. So there's a tendency that we might even see Ronaldo in the tournament. You don't know Ronaldo. Ronaldo wants to be strong enough to wait for 2 years from now, Ronaldo can. But for me, I think it's an exciting tournament. What do you make of it? We are also live on Tadi FM 99.1. Tune in and listen to the show. If you're watching us, please do well. Percy will take your comments from the comment section. What you think of this maiden tournament by FIFA. Percy will go and read the comment. But Asamoah Gyan, in the course of the week, retired, and
he was still playing.
He officially retired from football duties. That conversation,
football playing, because he said he's still in there.
Okay, well, football playing. That conversation, I would want to play the devil's advocate here and pitch Kofi against Percy, and I want to have their take. Do you think that Asamoah Gyan should be put in a conversation of the greatest, Ghanaian player to have ever played for the Black Stars, not Europe or anything, for the Black Stars, in terms of what players have done with the Black Stars? Should Asamoah Gyan be in that conversation and what he represents for Ghana football? I would want to play the devil's advocate. So it's going to be between Percy and Kofi. They'll give us their solid take on Asamoah Gyan's retirement. So that is there. But Percy, let's look at this Saudi Arabian thing. So when the season ended, even before the season ended, so the Emir of Saudi Arabia, the Sheikh of Saudi Arabia,
they don't have Emir.
They have the Crown Prince, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Before the Qatar World Cup was talking about changing the narrative about Saudi Arabia. If you've somebody that has followed the geopolitics, for a while, and you are very rooted in the political circles, you know the narrative about Saudi Arabia, especially when the Jamal Khashoggi thing hit the global scene, where there's talk about, the crown prince or even the throne has something to do with the death of Jamal Khashoggi. So there's been a lot of negative press about Saudi Arabia, issues about human rights abuse and all of that. That is politics. Trust me, if you know international politics, sometimes you will not buy a lot of the things you read from these media, or some of these media guys are so polarized based on their affiliation with one particular party or the other. So, but Saudi Arabia on a whole, want to change the narrative about them, and they feel that one of the ways they can do that is by using sports, especially when they've seen how successful Qatar has used the World Cup to rebrand its image. Before the World Cup, we saw a lot of negative press about Qatar, human rights abuse, people dying and all of that. But when the World Cup started, the buzz and everything, now Qatar has become a huge tourist hub. A lot of investment has gone there. Saudi Arabia want to follow suit. They actually wanted to put in a bid for the 2030 World Cup, but they withdrew that bid. They want to grow their league. They want to build that reputation with sports and with football. And one thing that a lot of people do not know is that what they are doing is not just football, it's not just soccer. So in the last 10 years, what Saudi Arabia has done is that they've positioned themselves in global sport. Golf was a thing that was the authoritative body of golf was the United States. In terms of the country that runs major golf or the majors was the US. What Saudi has done is that now Saudi literally owns the stake in golf. They own golf right now. They've actually partnered, or they hold the majority stake in pro golf in the world. When it comes to the PGA and all the major golf events in the world, Saudi Arabia is deeply ingressed in it, and they own the major stake. So they have control in golf. Not just golf, even in NASCAR racing, Saudi Arabia has been able to organize major racing events, and now they've partnered the likes of McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull in terms of global events. So when it comes to sports racing too, they are there. Boxing, they've also done that with boxing. Partnered the major enterprises and the major players in boxing. Now major boxing events will be held in Saudi Arabia and have already been held in Saudi Arabia. Then when it comes to entertaining sport, if you followed WWE, realize that they have a tournament called, is it the Crown Prince tournament or the Crown Jewel tournament? I love my wrestling. The Crown Jewel tournament is held in Saudi Arabia every year. They've actually bought a stake in that, and they want to use sport in general. So golf, they are there. And I mean racing, they are there. Boxing, they are there. I nearly forgot. MMA, mixed martial arts, major world title tournaments have been held in Saudi Arabia. So what we are seeing in football is not something that just sprang up.
No.
It's a strategic plan, and they actually do have a 20-year project to use sports, like I said, to change the narrative about the country Saudi Arabia. But the major talk is two things. We've heard a lot of people speak in the English press. Some believe that the EPL should try to stop Saudi Arabian clubs from invading their clubs or the league, taking out some of the best young talents, taking them. I don't know how that is going to be possible. I mean, you can't stop. I mean, this is the sports. That's fair play. Money talks. You can't stop them. But the narrative is that they are using football to wash their money. They are using football to hide some of their atrocious deeds, especially some of the owners of the club. And the word that has been bundled around is, this is tantamount to sports washing. This amount to say, money laundering. This amount to, human rights abuse and all of that. But what I want to ask the English, those that are propounding that narrative, is that you don't have an issue with Newcastle being owned by the Saudi club, and you're actually praising Newcastle. They've qualified for the Champions. They even bought, Newcastle last year they couldn't afford a €1 million player, but this year they bought Sandro Tonali for almost £70 million. City are being funded by oil money. United are now be hoping that they will get oil money to run their club. So please, when it suits you, you are okay. But when it goes against you, you are okay. Let's look at this. My question here is it sustainable? Because we saw Russia do it, Anzi Machkachala, and
we started talking about it last week.
Yes, and all of that.
Promised to go
China tried it, United States tried it, they couldn't sustain it. As we speak, Guangzhou Evergrande is in huge debt. It's the government that has
Shanghai SIPG, Shanghai Shanghua.
Is this sustainable?
Okay. Now, I started talking about it last weekend. We promised this week to really delve deep into it. So, just like you said, sports, doesn't stand in isolation. Sports goes with geopolitics, sports goes with arts, sports goes with music and everything. If you would want to understand it, you have to understand the origins of this whole thing. Who is spearheading it? Where is the funding coming from? What are their projections? So first, we'll start with who is spearheading it and when did it start. It is spearheaded by the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. We know that Saudis are people who probably are not really a Western style. They are not also the Eastern style. They are should I say, Islams, and they have their own ideologies and everything. But how come they are buying into all of this? It has to come from the 32-year-old or so Mohammed bin Salman.
Very young.
He is actually not the one supposed to be the crown prince. If you, like you said, if you really follow, we are here to be very educative. His father, that is his father, who is also King Salman, actually got the kingship from his brother, his half-brother, who died at age 90, King Abdullah. When he died, there was someone who was supposed to be crown prince that his dead brother actually put him in place and made him king. When he became king, his first action that he took was to remove the person who was supposed to be the crown prince and put a different person there. He's also called Muhammad. He was the crown prince, so King Salman was the king in 2015. That's when his brother died. Yeah. From 2015 to 2017, this Mohammed bin Salman, by then, he was a 25-year-old man who was the first child of the third wife of the current king. The king actually has married 3 times. First one died. Second one was divorced. Third one is this. He has 8. So this is the second child. Now, he has rise through the ranks from military, from the, from the being...
He has a solid business background.
Yes, he has actually been the head of Saudi Aramco. That is the second biggest company in the world after...
refining company.
It's even the second biggest company in the world after Apple.
Yeah.
They are worth over 2 trillion. Ghana's whole economy is 270 billion.
Please, let's not go there.
Let's continue.
When you mention this money, I feel like probably I'm on different content.
So it moves from there. Then between 2015 and 2017, the rightful person who is supposed to be the crown prince was removed again by King Salman. He removed him on the basis of treason, which everybody thinks that, okay, then probably it might not be. He really wants his son to be there. Yeah. Because the person he removed would have become king. So he removed him, and actually he's still under house arrest. Yeah. He's suffered a lot of assassination attempts, so now he's no longer there. Now when bin Salman came in 2017, then he started drawing the plan for Saudi Arabia. Yeah. His father actually made him like prime minister and left everything. His father is around 87-year-old. So he is the one in charge. Now being in charge, that's what we're saying. Then he started, how do we take away this notion about Saudi Arabia?
The negative narrative.
Number one had to do with how women are being seen.
Yeah.
Women were never allowed
That's true.
to be in a stadium.
To drive and all those things.
He took away all of that. Yeah. Number two was how women were portrayed. Yeah. You remember when Messi actually took a detour and went to Saudi Arabia to Jeddah? Yeah. Who actually met him? The Minister of Tourism.
It's a woman.
That is the cousin.
Yeah.
And usually it is not the woman who meet visitors.
Yeah.
And she met Messi not in hijab. She met Messi in jeans and Western style.
Yeah.
Another thing that he's also done, you talked about the match. Now we are hearing things like Deontay Wilder and AJ.
The fight actually, if it's almost
almost
agreed on, and if it happens, it's actually going to take place in Saudi Arabia.
In Jeddah,
like I told you, they have a stake in world boxing, golf, and all these things. So it's not just football.
Let's continue.
So for the English guys,
now,
let's shut up.
The stage in terms of football, because that's what we are speaking to. In Saudi Arabia, they have something we call the Saudi Consolidated Fund.
Yeah.
That is worth almost 970 billion. I didn't say 97 billion. I said 970 billion.
In the words of, the great Professor Kuntu Blankson, the 70 on top of it, they should give it to me.
Now, this money, when we say consolidated, it's just a bit. It's more or less like
know what consolidated. We also have a consolidated.
Ours was the one that we were using the oil proceed that we got that we put down. I don't know whether it's still there.
It's dry.
Now they put it there. One of the uses of the consolidated fund was buying a stake in the top 5 teams in Saudi Arabia: Al Nassr, Al Hilal, Al Ali, Al Ittihad, and it seems another Al Ain also. Yeah. Now these are the 5. So with this, they have a 70% stake, and they've left the 30% for whether shareholders or whatever. So when they say they are coming to buy you, I told you that they have a deep pocket, and the most expensive team in the world in Real Madrid is around 6 billion. I'm talking about the 970 billion. That is how much they have. Now, they want to use the sport to actually show to the western and the eastern side of the world that they are not as they see them to be. Yeah. And it is not a matter of trying to push away their culture. For their culture, they won't change. No.
I mean,
that is what
every country has its culture.
That is what Qatar showed the world, that no amount of pressure from the West. Yeah. Because in the World Cup, they stated clear, LGBT is tantamount to death. Yeah. We don't drink at the stadium. Budweiser was a major sponsor. But they said you buy the drink, you drink it in your room. We won't sell drinks.
Drink it outside.
We won't sell it outside. Yeah. They made it clear. And funny enough, they want Kane that if you wear the captain's band, you start with yellow card. Upon all the noise they made, they were not able to talk about. And when you talk about these things, and the next thing they want to also establish is that in the Gulf region made up of about eight countries. Saudi Arabia being the biggest. There's Yemen, there is Oman, there is Bahrain, there's Qatar, and there is United Arab Emirates,
which a lot of people popularly known as Dubai.
And all of them have one thing in common: oil deposits. Yeah. The biggest of them being Saudi Arabia. They sit down and they don't understand why small countries like Qatar and UAE, being Dubai, being the countries that are actually portraying tourism.
What people don't know is that a country like Qatar, even Accra, is bigger than Qatar.
They are just so small.
Very, very small.
So they sit down, they are the richest amongst all of these. Then they're okay. So when actually Bin Salman came, that is when he actually wanted to put this across. Now let's talk about sustainability. Let's start with Dubai. They started with this whole thing, or let's say USA. Yeah. Now, when USA
started with the US and went to Russia,
when USA started with Pele joining the New York Cosmos. When he joined them, they were not doing anything like a long-term project. They still had their basketball, their MLB, their National Hockey League, and whatever.
Now, the narrative is that there's no sport bigger than first American football, then basketball, then
MLB,
baseball, and then the other
hockey.
Sports, athletics, and the other sports. Yeah.
When Pele went there, look at the difference. When Pele went there, they only brought the individual. They were never ready to change anything like their facilities. Pele went to play on an AstroTurf and wasn't comfortable with. In fact, that AstroTurf was actually for the football, American football. Yeah. So you could see the line markings on them. After Pele, what happened? They couldn't sustain it. Yeah. So they were thinking of bringing a few retired players to come in. Angie Makaskala, that was Russia, started with Eto. It was just one billionaire that stood up one day and wanted to buy the biggest of players for his entertainment. It wasn't like it was
they have a model.
No, it wasn't like the whole Russian Federation who wanted to do something. If you take China is not a country that is blessed with footballers.
But if you look at China can be the closest thing, because for China it was also a strategic move to use football to change the narrative about how people saw the regime.
China had never been a mainstay in World Cups. That is one.
Okay.
2, China did not see football as one of its major things or major sports. They had all of martial art, they have swimming. If you talk about golds that have been won at Olympics,
table tennis,
you take away US, the next is China. Yeah. So taking football, the talent pool was not there. Again, the environment was not so comfortable for them because if you take a player like Carlos Tevez, he ran away. He had to run away back to Boca Juniors. Although after taking all of that money, because he was not comfortable with the culture, with the language, with a whole lot of issues.
How different is the China narrative? Because Saudi Arabia is not known for any sports.
Yes, I'm coming to
As
that.
for China, they do have sporting activities.
Now, Saudi
China is
Arabia
not known for anything.
Saudi
sport,
Arabia
apart
is known for football. Probably you have not counted.
You see, we
I'm
all
coming
know
to
they've made appearance at the
It's
World
not that
Cup
it's
and
not
all
that
of that. But when it comes to on top of your head, Saudi Arabia sports. Once in a while, they make a flashbang appearance at the World Cup.
They don't make a flashback.
How different is the Saudi Arabian
Now with the
narrative
Saudi Arabia, like I
from
told
the
you,
Chinese narrative?
Saudi Arabia is not trying. They didn't start this in a day. You see, with the China, it was an overnight thing. They just started buying, just paying huge amounts. Like I told you, the project did not start with football.
Yeah.
It started with other auxiliary sports. And it started with trying to put things, infrastructure, coaches, everything. Before Ronaldo came in, I tell you the number of coaches who have coached there.
Very good coaches have actually.
Lots of good coaches have gone there. There's Rudy Garcia who has gone there.
Yes, on top of I wanted to mention Rudy Garcia.
They are thinking of bringing Maxi Allegri.
Yeah.
So there were coaches that have been brought in. It's a long. They started in 2017.
Yeah.
And they did not just take models. And just like Qatar's hosting of the World Cup did not start with the World Cup.
Yeah.
It started with the purchasing of PSG.
Yeah.
And it was a long-term thing that they did. And it's crowned. So after the World Cup, if you could hear, they said Qatar has won the World Cup.
Yes,
because
they crowned it all.
Because at the final, it was two of their pitches, whether Messi wins or Mbappe wins. It was two of their pitches that actually won. They also started with this. And they actually did not decide that the state would take a whole stake in the whole thing. Like I said, 70% the stake, 30% the people. And they brought correct people to run it. And the next thing they did is that they brought the crown jewel of media hype, of media advertisement. If you talk about the most followed human being on earth on social media, it's Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's true.
If you talk about the most marketable athlete, it is not LeBron James. No. It is not all of these people it is Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. And it was so difficult to get somebody like this. So if they could bring Cristiano Ronaldo in, you see, until Ronaldo was brought in, you didn't really hear them chasing any player. And after he came in, all the other players that follow. If you take China, whom did they start with? There was Asamoah. They could pay Asamoah $500,000. Who will follow Asamoah to China? There was Oscar. Who was Oscar? Oscar was a star. Tevez is a star. He is not.
There were some.
But they are not players that. See, if you are talking about superstars in the world, we have grade A. They are only two.
That I agree with you.
Messi, Ronaldo. You take them, then you come to probably B+. There's Latans and the rest. China did not even go to B+. They went like B because Oscar and the rest. But they went straight Cristiano Ronaldo. And who did they take it from? Manchester United. They bring him in. And bringing Ronaldo in changed the whole narrative about them. Look at how it's so easy for players like Ziyech, players like Kante, who under normal circumstances, Kante in his state is still as good for any good team.
Yeah, I mean, before you continue, I think that all the players that, has been signed, Kante signed for Al Hilal.
Yeah.
All the players that these Saudi Arabian clubs have been able to bring in. The major surprise for me was N'Golo Kante because, yes, last season he had his injuries. But for me, Kante is still one of the best, defensive midfielders out there in Europe on any given day when he's fully fit. So I was very surprised when Chelsea had to let him go because I think that this offseason would have been the perfect time for him to recover very well and join Chelsea fully fit next season. So for them to be able to pull somebody like N'Golo Kante, that's huge. Hakim Ziyech, yes, probably very young, but he's not really had a good time at Chelsea. Maybe he could have gone to any other club in Europe, but also going to Saudi Arabia for me is a big deal. Koulibaly retired, in his old age. Ruben Neves, somebody at a club like Barcelona were flirting around it. I think that Ruben Neves can play in any of the Premier League clubs as we speak in England, in Italy, in France, in Germany. But they've been able to pull him away from Wolves. And there's talk of lots of players, a lot of big name young players. Bernardo Silva, as we speak, City are still in discussions with Bernardo Silva. If he wants to leave, one thing City do not do is prevent their players from leaving.
Because they make money from it. They always have a replacement.
And they've always made money from selling.
They have a replacement.
So they want a final say from Bernardo Silva. There's talk of Barcelona trying to come into the fray. But if Barca's financial issues. If it happens that Bernardo Silva has to leave, clearly he's going to end up in Saudi Arabia. So they are pretty much pulling some big names.
Now with the issue of these these English so pundits and talking about the fact that now listen, the level of hypocrisy and all of these sycophancy is so annoying. Now you are talking about the fact that Saudi Arabia should be prevented. The only thing that came into my mind was that who prevented the English and the French from raiding into Africa and taking us away? It's so that is one thing that Putin said that I'm always like, you people, you are always making it look like Russia is the bad person here. But Russia never colonized any African country, not even one.
Let's leave the politics to the
Let's put it aside. Now, my issue had to do with that.
Does Jimmy Carragher have a case? Does
Gary Neville has no... See, Gary
Neville
have a
case.
They were one of the major people who were criticizing the killing in, Qatar and the women when it was the World Cup.
You know, they made a lot of money.
And I'm saying who was actually taken as an ambassador to show the place. Oh, now Qatar is good. Qatar, you can come here. Himself, David Beckham, Jimmy Carragher, all of these people. See, Germans have this notion that for them, it is always a 50 plus 1. So no person can buy the team. The highest you can get is 49.
Yeah.
They don't take outsiders to run. Even they have Qatar money. Yeah. They had their fans chanting and talking about the fact that they didn't need this Qatar. Well, that's really Hoyness. He didn't say anything about it.
So clearly,
it is something that
let's wrap up the conversation.
It is something that they have no case in it. It's a no-brainer.
The apostles of the Premier League, those who think they know better than a lot of people in football, they do not have a case.
What case do they have?
One. You think this model is sustainable?
This model based on whatever blueprint they put in place. You see, and they are not raiding in all big players at a time. They are taking most of them for free. Most of them for free. And I have told you that the amount of money they are spent, it is not even the fraction. If I say a fraction, I'm probably not maybe exaggerating. It is too small a fraction. I've told you that the amount in the pocket can probably buy all the European teams combined.
Anyway, so guys, what do you think? We've spoken before we started the show. We've spoken a little bit about. I gave you what the new Club World Cup format is literally all about. How the qualification is going to be about. If you missed the show, sorry, but you can watch it later. But if this is your first time watching us, this is Sports 101. The channel is Sports 101, and the show is our Sunday review show where we take a look at major events in the sporting world throughout the week. Lots of things have happened, and we're having a discussion on the Saudi Arabian, raid on European football. How sustainable is it? We've spoken about the model did not start with Saudi Arabia. Actually started with United States in the 80s with Pele and the likes. They came back in the 2000s, tried to bring some old retired players, David Beckham and all of that. It didn't really stand. Then Russia came in. They also couldn't sustain it. China tried it for a while, but they also couldn't sustain it. But Saudi Arabia, like we said, what they are doing is they are not just using football. They have a major. They own golf right now. They have huge stake in boxing, huge stake in MMA, huge stake in racing, and all of that. Even entertainment sport. I told you about WWE. And like Percy went there, the difference with Saudi Arabia and other countries that try to model these things and it failed is that those countries, the money did not come from the government. It was individuals who owned their clubs. And they try to more or less do what Florentino Perez did with the Galacticos. Let me buy big name players. But this money is literally coming from the Saudi government. A pool of money that has been put there to help the major clubs in Saudi Arabia fund these purchases and grow their league, literally using sports to change the narrative about Saudi Arabia. So I think that it's going to be successful if they are going to really maintain this at the highest level, the next thing they need to look at is how to market the league. Listen, you can say anything you want to say about the English Premier League. What the English Premier League has done so well that the other leagues have failed to do is being able to market their league year in, year out, reinvent their league year in, year out. Last season, before the league started, the Premier League had some few ambassadors like Michael Owen, Owen Hargreaves, and some other ambassadors in Asia, so specifically Malaysia and Singapore, trying to push the Premier League in the faces of these people. They even have a deal with one of the biggest Malaysian TV network to stream the English Premier League. So there is a reason why teams from England would have their preseason in Asia. There's a reason why clubs like United, City, Liverpool would go to Asia to have preseason. It's because of what they are trying to do to create or broaden their scope when it comes to putting the English Premier League out there. The likes of the La Liga may be good, but hardly do people watch it. No. The likes of the Bundesliga may be good, but people do not have access to it. The French league even people in mainstay Europe don't really have direct access to some of the other 4 major leagues. So the English Premier League is out there for everybody to see. It's everywhere. You can have access to it. So if you're in Europe, Asia, everywhere. So for me, one thing that I think they should do is buy a stake in some of these major networks. The Qataris own Bein Sports. Yeah. So if they want to be out there, I think the next big thing they need to do is to partner Sky Sports so that the Saudi Pro League would be easy.
When did they buy it?
Exactly, because they can easily afford a Sky Sport. They can easily buy some of these, major sporting network out there.
When did they buy?
They can do it with ease. So when that happens, I think that people have access to the league, because listen, you can buy these players, but if week in, week out, we are not seeing them with time, the love and everything.
Because before Ronaldo came in, I don't even know who was Erling.
I didn't even know.
But it's so funny that he came in all of a sudden, Star Times was showing Saudi Pro League. So,
guys, we don't want to, spend so much time. The second part of the show will come very soon, where we will look at Arsenal. So we're talking about transfers. Yeah. Percy, one major transfer that literally shocked the world was Sandro Tonali. For me, this is a player who should be playing for Real Madrid, playing for Barcelona, playing for Manchester United, playing for Manchester City. And if you watch the narrative or the story surrounding the player himself, his desire was actually to play for AC Milan, but literally AC Milan needed the cash.
Needed
70 million pounds.
They actually also owed Brescia.
Exactly. AC Milan,
former club,
needed to. So they needed cash to offset things. So a club like Newcastle, what does the acquisition of Sandro Tonali, because we've seen Tonali in the Champions League, we've seen, if you're a lover of the Serie A, you know how good he is a register, how good he is a proper CDM. What is he bringing to the Newcastle team?
I really like Newcastle and how they are towing. They don't want to be a PSG. They don't want to be an extended city. When I say an extended city, they don't want to go the way City went, that they would have to buy so many big players at a time. See the way they started? When there was the acquisition, of course, they had all of the players there. The main player was actually Alan Saint-Maximin. They brought in, Bruno Gomes was there.
No, they actually bought Bruno Gomes from Lyon.
The only player they brought in first was Alexander Isak. They brought Isak in. There was Kieran Trippier, who was also brought in. Then they maintained the season. Then they bought Callum Wilson from AFC Bournemouth so that he would also join. Now that these players were able to gel and able to go to the Champions League, I hear Alan Saint-Maximin would be released to go. Now, Bruno Gomes is now the one who is trying to play more of the defensive midfield.
The team literally revolves around him.
You bring Tonali in, you unleash him.
Good.
So now it becomes two players playing in the defensive midfield role. And if you see what Pochettino wants to do, he is a coach that builds from scratch. He doesn't buy it. That is why you could see that in PSG he was struggling, because he had already come to meet established players. Trying to impart what he knows would be difficult. But if you talk about him in Southampton, and what he did with Adam Lallana, Morgan Schneiderlin, and Jay Rodriguez, and all of that. Nobody knew Jay Rodriguez, nobody knew Schneider, nobody knew Lallana. All of these players, Ricky Lambert, but he did a lot with Luke Shaw and all of these players. The same thing with Tottenham. When he came to Tottenham, the number 9 was actually Adebayo. Adebayo was the one playing number 9, and they had also bought Soldado, Roberto Soldado too. But then the season of 14-15, when he came in, he made all those players be on the bench, and it started with Kane. Kane was actually from the academy.
Talking about Newcastle or what now?
I'm talking about Pochettino and what he's going to do with Tonali as a player.
No, that's Pochettino is at Chelsea now. Eddie Howe. You see, that's what happens when you have a lot of information in your head.
Sorry.
But I'll come back to you, Percy. But
I was actually talking about Eddie Howe.
Yeah,
and
what I think the acquisition of Sandro Tonali does for Newcastle is that, like Percy went there, it frees somebody like Bruno Gomes. Bruno Gomes is actually more of a creative midfielder than defensive. If you've watched him at Lyon, he's cut in the mode of an Eriksen. He's cut in the mode of a Bruno Fernandes. And so at Liverpool, because they did not have a proper DM who would sit back and be that defensive element that Newcastle needed, he had to play that role. But with the acquisition of Sandro Tonali, it frees Bruno Gomes a little bit. He can go forward and be a very creative player for them. Being able to, what he does very well is create those first and second phase passes.
Yeah.
And so somebody like Alexander Isak, somebody, like Aaron Gordon, whoever plays ahead of him, he knows how to, put through those first and second phase passes. I think that Eddie Howe has a brilliant player, and those who are not privy to the Italian league and some of these quality players that are coming through from the Italian league, watch out for somebody like, Sandro Tonali. It's a good acquisition, but 70 million, that's
for the 70 million, like you were saying, it was actually AC were not going to sell. They got him from Brescia. The deal was amortized. They are supposed to pay, is it about 19 million for the next 3 years?
When we say amortization, what we mean is spread payment.
Yes, prepayment over a period of time. Yeah. Like you have taken a loan and you spread it, and it's amortized. But then, you see, that is why you were saying that this is the time for actually these super agents. Pines Javier, he actually made Newcastle aware. AC Milan were going to pay due, but as of now, they don't have anybody to complement Olivier Giroud because Zlatan is gone. So he actually made Newcastle aware, this Tonali guy, he really fits into your profile. So when you get him, then he went to AC Milan and told them that you have to pay Brescia. So with that, they have no other option. Then they went again to another team and told AC Milan that other player, I've forgotten his name, is also available. So in this case, how much do you think this guy is going to get? Pines Javier. He would get from Brescia, he would get from AC Milan, he would get from Newcastle, and the next team the next midfielder that he's getting this player from. So in this whole transfer season, we, especially those of us who follow all of these teams.
Before we talk about it, how will you rate, because you have a lot of things to talk about, how would you rate the signing of Tonali on ABCD?
ABCD, I'll give them a B. They bought a player they need.
It's a B.
Yes.
I think that Sandro Tonali is an A. It's a hit for them.
Seriously.
Now, Kai Havertz to Arsenal. Major shock. I mean, for me, I didn't expect Kai Havertz to leave Chelsea because he came in as Kofi's West, the two German shepherds, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner. They came in. They've not really hit the heights, but at least one thing Chelsea fans can remember him for is the fact that he won the Champions League for them with that goal. Aside that, I have said countless times that he's not the kind of player that I rate so high. I saw him in Germany, but he's still not the kind of player that I rate so high. But Arsenal are willing to pay 70+ million for Kai Havertz. They've already agreed personal terms with Kai Havertz. The deal is almost about done. Kai Havertz to Arsenal would happen. Take it from me, it would happen. They are almost paperwork in the agreement with Chelsea. I think that if Arsenal needed a player, it was a proper number 9, because I knew the signing of Gabriel Jesus was not going to be a hit because he's not going to give you 20 plus league goals. No. Even at his time at
league
City,
goals, combined goals, it would be difficult.
When there was so much creativity around him, he didn't do
always
that.
Drift to the wings.
How much more at Arsenal? So they need a proper number 9 to be able to compete at the highest level. But they are not going in for a striker. Maybe Arteta knows something I do not know. They are not going in for a striker. They are going in for Kai Havertz, who literally plays the role of Martin Odegaard. Yes, can deputize as, you know, a false 9. But even in his role as a false 9, how many goals has he scored?
He's Chelsea's leading goal scorer last year.
So how many goals has he scored? That's the point.
He's a leading goal scorer.
He can be a leading goal scorer with 9. He can be a leading goal scorer with 9. He can be a leading goal scorer with 5.
We know he's not a prolific person.
Exactly. So for us now, I think that this signing is just to bring in a big name guy for people to know you are signing. It is not a signing they need. It is a signing they want. Yes, he can easily slot in any of the forward roles. Odegaard is out. He can play. He can play in the Martinelli role. He can play in the Saka role. He can play as a false 9. But Havertz to Arsenal, what do you make of that signing?
Why buy a player for 70 million when you know he's probably not going to start?
You think Havertz will not start?
I'm saying that. I said probably not going to start. Now, the role that he's in to play.
Yeah.
Arsenal have a consistent up front. That is, you have Gabriel Jesus up front. Odegaard number 10, Martinelli and Saka. So you bring him in, you will say it's a competition. You have another deal that is supposed to rather solidify your midfield. As of now, the reason why Arsenal did not win the league was the decline of Partey.
But we'll talk about, because we're on Arsenal, we'll definitely talk about eminent acquisition of Declan Rice.
Like you said, you brought Gabriel Jesus in, and you realize that one of the other reasons why Arsenal could not win the league was that it got to a time the goals dried up. And you know that every team for the past 10, 15 years that actually wins the league, it is two things. Either they have a very solid defense, or they have that number 9.
But you know, City defied that narrative.
Listen to what I said. You have a solid defense, or you have that number 9. Okay. When City won with all players scoring, go and check their defense. Ruben Diaz.
They considered a league number. It was the season Ruben Diaz won the
take away that season. All the other times, the time that Liverpool won it, the time that City even won it the other time, it was Aguero. The time that Chelsea won it, it is either Drogba, Diego Costa. The time United won it, it was Van Persie. Even the last time that Arsenal won themselves, it was Henry. So every single season, if your player does not win the goal game, at least close to that. So Arsenal, they do not have a very solid defense. So if probably you know that maybe your defense cannot maybe sustain or maybe give you a lot of clean sheets, your attack should be very solid. Those who play on the wing, that is Saka, and they were the only team that had 3 of the players scoring double digits.
So on that basis, Odegaard hit double digits in assists and goals in the league alone.
Yeah.
Saka hit double digits in assists and goals.
Yeah.
Martinelli likewise. So is that not good enough?
Like I said, all of these goals, they are things that are more like additives that come to the players who play. The goals, of course, can come from all of these players. But there should be that one masked man. One. If you take Liverpool, they had 3 front men. But there is that Salah that will always step up. Now, when you take these players, Saka that you are talking about, that gave you the double digits. How many matches was he able to play without injury? Odegaard is the player that is supposed to give you the assist, fine. But those goals are definitely not going to be enough. Like I'm saying, if you want to win the league, it is 2 things. A very solid defense, or a very potent attack.
So you think the acquisition
Now
of Kai Havertz
bringing him in is just going to
is
be
a
like
want, not a need.
It is not something that is going to solve your center forward issue.
Like I said in my introduction,
it's a center forward issue.
We'll preview Arsenal season and as a whole, and you realize why. I'll give you the numbers. You get to see why I think that if Arsenal had a striker,
a center forward,
you remember those games when they were trailing, they were drawing. If they had that center forward, that
Martinelli will be on the waves, will cross in.
League goals,
one other person will cross in. Who
goals.
Is there to head the ball?
Most
of their headed goals came from defenders.
So
either Saliba or what do you call it, Gabriel?
Like I said, I'm not a coach, but maybe Arteta has seen something we are not seeing. I mean,
unless he wants to play a force from
he's a good manager.
Yeah.
Arteta has seen something we are not seeing, and he's probably going to unleash some of the greatest assets of Kai Havertz that a lot of people do not know. Now, a quick one. Declan Rice. It was Arsenal, Arsenal. Then, listen, if you, like Percy was saying, if you know these agents, trust me, they can turn your head.
They use one team to get the amounts they want.
Like Pep Guardiola spoke about it. He said we were never in for Cristiano Ronaldo. He said we were never in. Even with the story of Declan Rice, I'm telling you, City were never in for Declan Rice because City have already said, putting out their major targets out there. But when the news that City came in and there's even the possibility of they adding money to Calvin Phillips and tackling Declan Rice, I think that some Arsenal fans came at Edu and the likes, but Declan Rice has said point blank that if there is a team he's going to move to, is Arsenal. He's agreed personal terms with Arsenal. That's the news out there. Arsenal are trying to negotiate a deal. There's going to be money and some add-ons. West Ham actually want
100 million.
The entire money. Arsenal want to try, because Charlie, 100 million pounds is not chicken change. Trust me, even these clubs who are run by billionaires, it's still not chicken change. But it's certain that Arsenal will get their Declan Rice. It's going to be a Declan Rice Thomas Partey partnership in the middle. I think that
Partey is going to Saudi Arabia.
I think that talk is just one of those talks.
Seriously,
but the Saudi Arabian club will offer 100 million a year for Thomas Partey. How much are they even paying for N'Golo Kante? I think that story is just one of those
I'm not even talking about
to put some relevance for certain people. But Declan Rice to Arsenal, they got his spot on. You spoke about the fact that they needed a midfielder.
You see,
what is Declan Rice bringing to Arsenal?
Now, if you take Arsenal season, the first part of the season, one of the things that actually helped them was the role of Partey. Partey could free someone like Jack, and Granit Xhaka is leaving. His wife wants them to leave, so Granit Xhaka obviously is leaving. Arsenal played a 3-man midfield. They can even decide to play 2 holding. That is, one becomes the 8, one becomes the 6, with Odegaard playing the 10. Now, it got to a time, we actually don't know, and I said it here in January, the moment there was a purchase of, Jorginho. I said it that Jorginho's inclusion in this team is not that it's going to give Partey a run for his money, but you would see Jorginho starting. And for all of the other extraneous reasons, I don't want to even get there.
But I think that Jorginho is a better metronome than Thomas Partey.
It's not up for argument. We don't need to argue about that. Which it is something that is very obvious. But for one funny reason, it got to a time we were comparing Partey with Casemiro. Partey went off all of a sudden. Of course, there were calls of maybe 1 or 2 injuries. But then, whenever Arsenal was on the attack, there was this one person that they know all of the 4 can leave, even with Xhaka leaving, and Partey can be behind and be able to shield those.
On the Partey bait, this is Thomas Partey's numbers as a DM for Arsenal. So the 2023 season for Thomas Partey, most tackles in is 70, as in for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Most successful take-ons, even for a DM.
Yeah.
3rd most passes.
Yeah.
3rd most touches.
Yeah.
3rd most shots that have hit the woodwork, and 3rd most creative passes. So he's not just a DM.
Yeah.
He actually, if you look at Partey's skill set, he can actually play as a central attacking midfielder.
He could. So, like I said, Arteta, and I also think that one of the reasons why he wants to bring someone like Declan Rice is the age. Because if you take Arsenal from the...
Rice is 24, right? Or 23?
Yeah, 23 getting to 24.
Very
Partey
good.
is 29 getting to 30.
Yeah.
So...
And also injury prone.
Yes, and if you take that Arsenal team, from the midfield up front are all youngsters.
Yeah, the youngest team in the league, actually.
So right now, if there is a counter, and if you watch Declan Rice, he's a DM that likes joining attack, especially when it's a counter attack. So I probably think that he wants to take the game to another level in a higher tempo, because if they hit and a counter break, the DM should be very aware.
Is it that good as the press has made him to be?
No. The guy is good. The guy is good.
Is that good?
See. Probably it is the amount that has been put on him, because of course West Ham wants the money. He's their captain. Take away the amount that has been put on him.
But I mean, I always say, people should not make noise about transfer. I'm selling my product. I place a price. So I price on my product.
Take away the amount that has been put on him.
Is it that good?
If you are talking about 3 best defensive midfielders in the Premier League, you can't take him out.
Wow.
That's
a bold statement.
You could talk about Rodri.
3 best DMs in the English Premier League.
Listen, now.
And Percy puts in Declan Rice.
See.
So Rodri,
Casemiro, and I'll put him there. Guys,
is Declan Rice that good?
Declan Rice has been Partey is just this season, and last season just a bit of. Declan Rice has been very good this season from the time that Mark Noble gave him the captain's band. For the past, why do you think Lampard was chasing him? You know, Lampard started chasing him in 2019 when he was appointed. This is 2024. Do you think it is that easy to command the English national team playing for West Ham? When was the last time that happened? See, he is that one player who plays in West Ham, and when he is called into the national team to play, you hardly hear qualms about him. He doesn't play in any of these top 6 teams.
Anyway, Percy feels the acquisition of Declan Rice, by Arsenal is A+ in his books.
It's a very.
I think that for need's sake, I always say, if you watch City, what City have done so well over the last 7 seasons under Pep Guardiola's reign is to buy right. Every single player that they've bought, they've gotten something out of the player. Even if they let the player go at some point, they've found a way to get the most out of
Calvin
that player. Because if you were a team and you had Rodri playing at this level,
I will loan Calvin Phillips.
I think there is a place for him probably next season and all of that. But guys,
he is almost at the same age as Rodri. So when?
Well,
he'll be like Valdez and Casillas.
That's another thing altogether in the Spanish season. But I think Arsenal have gotten it spot on. A+ for me. What do you make of these signings? Keep your comments coming. Percy would read your comments.
Let's continue. But when we are done.
Yes, when we are done, Percy will put everything together. Mason Mount to Manchester United. So the news coming in is that United's third bid of £55 million plus some add-ons have been rejected. Chelsea want an outright £60 million. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you watch the deals that Chelsea are doing. Now, people think Chelsea are doing business. That would give them leeway to be able to be in the FFP. Before Percy come in, let me explain to you the reason why Chelsea would at some point sell Mason Mount to Manchester United, and not just Mason Mount, other players. So people think that if so, the likes of Edouard Mendy is going to Saudi Arabia, Koulibaly have gone to Saudi Arabia, N'Golo Kante has gone to Saudi Arabia. Now, all these sales necessarily do not matter. Chelsea will still have to sell more because of revenue generation that they didn't really make last season. Let's not forget, Chelsea signed close to £600 million worth of players last season, and they generated very little in terms of money that came through from player sales. So Chelsea are on the threshold of the FFP. Now, this is what Chelsea need to do. Now, the reason why players that have been signed into the Saudi Pro League do not necessarily fall into the category of players that the transfer zone of the FFP is that, one, the Saudi Pro League does not officially open for player trading until July 1st. Meaning, any transfer of Chelsea players to one of the 4 PFI owning clubs in Riyadh, Jeddah, cannot be formally completed in the eyes of FIFA until the start of next month.
By then, you should have closed your books too.
Secondly, June 30th is the final cut-off point for any player sale to be included in this year's books for Chelsea, for them to be able to fall outside the red zone. Now, this, however, applies to only domestic transfers since the Premier League summer transfer window opened in July 14th. So Chelsea have up until July 30th to make domestic transfer seasons.
June 30th or
June 30th, sorry, to ensure that any domestic transfer season will be completed so that this year's books can be closed so that they will fall within FFP. So I think that at some point, United should just be calm. At some point, they will get their Mason Mount. But the third deal for Mason Mount, offer for Mason Mount has been
there was actually add-ons. It was 50 plus the add-ons of 5. Is
it a player that United need? Or is just a want?
No, with Mason Mount, he is as versatile as Kai Havertz. In Chelsea, he's played in central midfield role. He's played in attacking midfield role. He's played on the right attack, left attack, number 10. He's even played as a false number 9.
Yeah.
Now, with these positions, there is this one player, Bruno Fernandes, who has had very little rest because with his role, he has been shifted throughout the whole team with almost every position up front. Now, you bring in a player like Mason Mount. See, one of the things that made City very formidable is squad depth. So many players who are equally good. And United is playing the Champions League. There will be FA Cup. There will be Carabao. There will be the Premier League. So if United is able to go forward with all of this, you are talking about close to 60 games. You would need a plethora of players you can choose from for different roles. And this is Ten Hag. If he wants the player, then he really wants the player. And you know that United is also doing a clear out. You hear the likes of Fred going. You hear the likes of McTominay going. There is the likes of Phil Jones and all of this. So definitely there should be. And another thing too that they are also considering is the homegrown advantage. Because you need to satisfy a certain quota of homegrown players.
That's true.
United is letting a lot of, Phil Jones is a homegrown player. So letting him go would definitely get you to a deficit of 1. Now, if you take the United team, how many?
They will not let go of Maguire.
And in the likes of Maguire, we could hear West Ham and a whole lot of players coming in. So if you let Maguire and let's say Phil Jones go, you've lost 2. Now, if you check the starting line, say Sancho, Rashford.
Sancho is not a starter at Manchester
United. And I'm even talking about the squad. Sancho, Rashford. Who else?
Yeah.
Who else? How many homegrown players do you have? You could literally count them. You don't have, maybe you look short. So you would need, apart from Mason Mount, you will realize that United will go for another English player.
What necessarily is the skill set of Mason Mount? Because one of the major talking points about Jordan Henderson and Kofi.
He has no skill set.
What is Jordan Henderson's skill set? I mean, not just Kofi. A lot of people have actually looked at Jordan. What does he bring to a team? What is the major skill set of Mason Mount? Because he's not ranked assist. He's not in there. You know, when it comes to chance creation, he's not in there.
Are you sure chance creation is not in there?
Well, he's not in there.
Now listen.
Top 5 chance creation. Mason Mount is not in there. Even in the season that he was the key man for.
You know that he's been rated with injuries.
What is his major strength?
His major strength are 1. He shoots and shoot. He takes his chances as an attacking midfielder. He is not one of those players that would, if it comes to crunch, that he should choose between passing and taking his shot. He is very good with that.
Manchester United would always define every pitch.
I'm not saying he's the best at what he does. You asked me of the skill set, and I'm giving them to you. The next thing is that he's a very good passer of the ball.
I think Mason Mount is no better off than Jordan Henderson.
Seriously?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Lucky.
Mason Mount is no better off than Jordan Henderson.
How dare you compare the skill set? And besides, they don't even play the same role.
Yes, but I still think Mason Mount is no better off than Jordan Henderson.
Lucky. You don't even have the guts to even say. In fact, you dare not even say something like that.
I've watched Mason Mount. I don't think he's even worth 40 million pounds.
Seriously?
Yes.
Mason Mount is not worth 40 million pounds.
40 million pounds.
And Declan Rice is worth 100 million.
I may sound very controversial.
No, but why would you listen, Lucky? I don't want to go into the ins and outs of player sale and the amount. We are not here to talk about
yes,
that.
but that's what I'm saying. He's not
Lucky.
better. He's not better off than Jordan Henderson.
In the time that Chelsea had the likes of Matthew Kovacic.
Yes.
They had the likes of Kai Havertz. They had the likes of Hakim Ziyech. These are players that you can talk of giving assists and even scoring.
What did Mason Mount do?
That was the time that he was arguably, if you take
arguably the best players for who?
His first season, 18-19. His second season, 19-20. His third season, 20-21. There was none that if he's not the best, the second in the Chelsea team.
In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is Kane.
Please. 2021, Chelsea won the Champions League. Who gave the assist?
Oh, please.
No,
when did that become so relevant in the acquisition of a player?
Mason Mount is not an A player, but Mason Mount is a very good player.
And you think that if Ten Hag decides to bench or rest somebody like Bruno Fernandes, what Bruno Fernandes brings to this Manchester United team,
why wouldn't Mason Mount do the same?
Can be able to do even 50% of that.
Mason Mount can do 100% of what Bruno Fernandes does.
Whoa, listen, guys.
Last season, listen. Bruno Fernandes that we are making so much fuss about. He was one of the reasons why last season United were where they were.
Do you know Bruno Fernandes' numbers in terms of ratio? In terms of ratio.
I want to know the ratio.
In Bruno Fernandes' numbers, goals and assists. If you are trying
and
to
how many of them are penalties? How many of those goals are penalties?
If you are trying to look at it,
I want you to be specific. If you are talking about goals, he was United top scorer.
Goals and assists in the last 5 seasons.
He's not been United for 5 seasons.
Sorry. In the last, I actually want to place it in perspective. The last 2-3 seasons.
2.5 seasons.
2-3 seasons. The last, he shades Kevin De Bruyne's numbers in terms of goals and assists.
I don't have any problem with that.
Do you know that he's the only player that actually shades Kevin De Bruyne?
He's made more creations than
Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. And you think a player like that, if Eric Ten Hag decides to let me rest Bruno Fernandes.
You are telling me that he is not fit to play in the position of Bruno Fernandes? Is that what you are saying? A player that plays in Champions League. Listen. Lucky, for whatever that he's done, Bruno Fernandes, for whatever he's done, where Mason Mount has been, and his importance to the Chelsea team, and what he has made that importance reap, or what he has made that importance bear, Bruno Fernandes is here to see that.
The fact that Bruno Fernandes has not won the Champions League.
No, I am not. Listen, I am not saying. I am not saying that.
So Mason Mount to Manchester United. United get it. How would you rate that signing?
Oh, that signing will be a B.
That signing will be.
It will be a trying to expand the squad and bring a lot of options.
Quick one. 60 seconds on Kovacic and Manchester City. How do you rate that signing?
It is an A. It is an A.
I also agree.
It is an
A. If you know Mateo Kovacic,
it is an A.
And his skill set,
he replaces Gundogan perfectly.
I do not even want people to see him as a replacement for Gundogan.
If Gundogan is to leave, you wouldn't see he has left,
because I think he
wouldn't give you the goal, but he will give the chance for De Bruyne to go.
The only thing he does not add to his game is goal scoring, but when it comes to the duty of playing a transition-based player, he is the best press-resistant player in the Premier League. You cannot press Kovacic and win the ball.
No.
It is impossible.
No.
And his ability to easily transition from
hold on to ball
and be able to break
locate his man,
those 2-3 lines, for me, is a spot on.
It's an A.
Just that I think the signing, like we've all agreed, transfer prices there you cannot, for a player of his age and the contract left for £30 million, I think that Chelsea have gotten some good money out of it. Gundogan to Barcelona is a done deal. How do you rate that signing?
For Gundogan to Barcelona, it was only fair that the departure of Busquets and a few players coming off would mean that Barca had to revamp. They had to bring in now. Barca
getting a leader, an experienced person that the likes of Pedri, the likes of Gavi would learn well from.
The only thing is that
Gundogan.
going into Barca, he might not start.
You think he will not start?
Barca plays a 3-man midfield.
They could push him in attack.
No. Barca plays a 3-man midfield.
Everybody knows that. Frankie, the midfield is set.
The
Frankie
only part in the attack that he played is a number 10.
Frankie de Jong, Pedri, and Gavi.
He doesn't play an out wide attack.
You think he cannot play in any? We've seen City, we've seen Arsenal do it this season. Even at some point, Xavi do it this season. Play 2 number 10s, 2 number 8.
Barca does not play 2 number 10 because if they played 2 number 10s, it would leave Frankie de Jong to be the only one number 6 and number 8. And Frankie de Jong, we know him not to be a very good tackler of the ball.
What you are refusing to get is that you can easily sacrifice one attacking player on the left and play 2 number 10s. But so it's all basically, it's not about what Barca does.
Of course.
For a manager, you can reinvent season in, season out, but let's rate the signing.
Oh, the signing I think is a slot in. Barca has
rate the signing.
I'll give them a B. It's not an A. I won't give them an A.
You're not giving them an A for getting Gundogan?
No, it's not an A. I said, he is a player that gives them options, just like Kai Havertz, just like Mason Mount. He's not a player that one leaves, one comes in.
Gundogan is on another level.
I am not talking about Gundogan as a player. I am talking about the buy and his role in the Barca team.
For me, Mason Mount is no better.
Oh no, but you can't compare Mason Mount to Gundogan. Gundogan started the Gundogan of Dortmund is better than the Gundogan of what you call it.
Anyway,
City.
So these are the major transfers that have been that have taken place in the course of the week. Some yet to be concluded, but definitely will be concluded. The likes of Kai Havertz, I believe that by the end of this month will definitely be concluded by Arsenal. Personal terms have already been agreed with Chelsea. The deal is the price is 70 million plus some few will already be they are literally trashing it out. The deal also with Declan Rice, Arsenal, West Ham, personal terms have been agreed. They are trashing out some few paperwork. So I'm sure by the end of the month, Arsenal will probably have made 2 major signings. One, I think it's not so much of a need. Like I said, I would have preferred that Arsenal would probably go in for a striker, even if not for Ivan Toney's issues, betting issues and suspension. I think that he would have been a good buy. He would have been a good buy for Arsenal.
A hot cake this summer.
But I think that there's a player like Victor Osimhen. Yes, bringing him into the Premier League.
It's like all of a sudden his buzz has
died. Basically because of Napoli's stance. Charlie, 130. It's not easy.
How much is Kane even going for?
Kane is the England captain.
And I'm saying that even Kane is not going for 130.
Okay.
So why would we decide to go for a player who has not played in the Premier League before?
My reason for not Arsenal being a bit skeptical with the purchase of Victor Osimhen is he's not really proven. He's just had one brilliant good season.
He's good, yeah, but you can't take that gamble.
Yes, but I think that Arsenal need a striker more. Like on the bit of Arsenal, let's do a quick season review of Arsenal. Now, Arsenal, I think in the course of the season, we spoke extensively about Arsenal, so I'm not necessarily going to look at everything. Let's look at where do Arsenal strengthen the most ahead of next season, from defense to midfield to attack. Where do Arsenal need to strengthen? And if they are going to strengthen, which major positions should they strengthen? So when I say where, should they strengthen in midfield? Should they strengthen in defense? Should they strengthen in attack? If they are strengthening in defense, are they strengthening at the left fullback, central defense? So let's look at Arsenal. Where do Arsenal strengthen specifically?
Now, for their goalkeeping issues, I think they were able to solve it very well.
Ramsdale is solid.
Ramsdale coming in for Ben Leno was a very, very good addition to the team. And the only thing they can do is they get a very formidable number 2 for Ramsdale. So I wouldn't really tackle that. Central defense is where they need a very, very potent replacement.
Okay.
Because if you take William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes, they did yeoman's work. They did very well. Previous years that they had Mustafi and Socrates and the rest, and they had a lot of issues.
I think the partnership of Saliba and
it was
Gabriel was perfect.
It was just a few times that they had what's the name of that guy? That Raiden guy who came in. There was the guy who usually comes in.
I think the name just
Yes.
escaped me.
He was not really able, especially when Saliba had an injury and he came in. Rob Holding. There were a lot of mistakes and a whole lot of issues. And you also had the guy who usually plays on the right side. Who is
what's his name?
who sometimes plays auxiliary.
Ben White.
Ben White. Ben White is originally a centre back, but then I'll come to the right back. So Ben White can deputize, but then when you have a central defender, usually you play a 4-back. That is the centre backs. You should have a minimum of about 4, 2 starters and maybe 2 auxiliaries, and they will do the work. Rob Holding didn't really show to be a player that can be relied on when you have these players going off. So for me,
they shouldn't change the central defensive pairing of.
You can bring one
of Saliba and Gabriel.
You can bring one in just so that maybe it will complement the absence.
Arsenal are also in the market to sign Aurelien Tchouameni from Ajax.
Yeah. Now, William Timber is a right back.
Yeah, he's a right back, but he can play as a centre back.
It's because Arsenal did not really have a formidable and a reliable right. That was why you had Tomiyasu that was brought in. There were times that the guy lost form. That was why you had Ben White going in for him. Ben White, like I said, is a central defender. So a CB who is coming centre back who is trying to step in for a right back makes you realize that it means that Tomiyasu, of course, he did what he could, but to win the league, you need a right back who has to attack. Ben White didn't have to attack. Tomiyasu, even when he goes forward, he can't come back.
So you think they need a right back?
They need a right back.
In their defensive positioning, Arsenal
need
a new right back. What about the left back?
With the left back,
is Zinchenko okay?
Zinchenko and Tierney really did well because Zinchenko really brought what he was doing at City to the team.
A lot of people have complained about Zinchenko because defensively, attacking wise, he's about one of the best, but defensively.
So if you have a player who is very, very good attacking wise, that is when your defensive midfielder covers up for him. Marcelo is never known for his defensive prowess, but one reason why we never saw was Casemiro. Whenever he left, Casemiro slots in.
What you think it was a tactical?
It was a tactical
error that exposed.
Real Madrid never exposed the weakness of Marcelo. It only started showing up when Casemiro left. When Casemiro left, and when you realize that
Casemiro left, Marcelo wasn't even a starter at
and as at then too, you realize that a guy himself doing the overlapping.
So for left back, Arsenal are sorted. So you think what Arsenal need is a proper backup to the center defensive pairing of Saliba and Gabriel. Then they need a proper right back. What about midfield? So midfield, I think that Arsenal have gotten it spot on with Declan Rice and Partey.
Now, if you play Declan
they also
Rice,
have a Jorginho in there.
Now, if you play, they play a 3-man midfield. Let's take Odegaard out. Now, let's say you are bringing in Declan Rice. There is this player in the shape of Granit Xhaka who has left. Arsenal can play this gamble. You play Declan Rice and Partey at the same time. This time round, you give the role of Partey to Declan Rice. Then you give the role of of Granit Xhaka to Partey. Or you can Declan Rice the way he is. He's now been transitioned into a level that now he can even go up front. So they could make do with the fact that, okay, we won't sell Partey. Declan Rice will play the holding midfield role. Then you can bring Partey to play Granit Xhaka's role going forward. So with
so basically what you are saying is
they can play two
with the acquisition of Declan Rice, Arsenal have options.
They have options.
Lots of options. Now let's look at the attacking, side or the attacking position in the Arsenal team. So Arsenal's current attackers are forward liners. They have Bukayo Saka, Martinelli. They have
Odegaard.
Odegaard is more like a central advanced midfielder.
And they have Gabriel Jesus.
They have Gabriel Jesus.
Or Edin Ketia.
These
and Emil Smith Rowe.
And Leandro Trossard. I think that he should be starting.
Yes, and Trossard.
Wow, I've forgotten about Trossard. So if you bring in Kai Havertz, what happens to the role of Leandro Trossard?
You spoke about squad dead.
I think that
squad depth comes in.
When
And
we're
also
talking
brings a
about
lot of
United,
brings a lot
so
of
let's look at the attacking verse. So now Arsenal actually do have lots of attackers,
especially in the left and right flank.
There's Trossard, there's Kai Havertz, there is Martinelli, there's Edin Ketia, there's Gabriel, there's Bukayo Saka.
Yeah.
Do they need any other?
They need a center forward.
They need a striker.
They need a center because Edin Ketia, of course, he did his bit, but you don't win the league with Edin Ketia.
Oh, please don't.
We don't win the league. Somebody will say that the name alone does not win.
Arsenal fans, if you want to win the league,
you don't win
the league with
you don't
Edin
win
Ketia and Gabriel Jesus.
You don't win the league with Edin Ketia.
So why is Arsenal not in the market for a striker?
And I am saying that, like you said, we don't know how the coach wants to play.
Use Kai Havertz.
Maybe he wants to go the way of City. He wants to make it not the one player being the main custodian or proponent of the goals, the main carrier of the goals. And that thing is a very, very dangerous thing to do. Like I said, every team, if it is 99.9% of the teams, even when Leicester won the league, it was not goals shared among. Mahrez did his bit, but it was always Jamie Vardy. There was Shinji Okazaki. There was Ojua. There was Andy Keane. But the goals were coming from one player, Jamie Vardy.
So they need a striker.
They need that one center forward who can be relied on. Who plays Arsenal's penalties?
Oh, Bukayo Saka. And he's so good at it.
See,
he has about 95 success rate.
I am not saying that he's no good
for
with
a
penalties.
player. I mean, if you have a 95% success rate on penalty spot, there's nothing better.
One of the things that also makes your opponent become very fearful of your team is the type of attacker you carry. Now, we were always talking about the fact that Haaland, when he was playing in Real Madrid, he did nothing. But if you watch him, the presence of Haaland and his exploit in the City team this season already, when he was playing the Real Madrid team, it was a lot of his runs that actually gave the chance or opened up the Real Madrid defense.
His presence takes away two.
It takes, but you are going to play an Arsenal team that the center forward is Edin Ketia that has 5 goals.
Don't bring Edin, can bring in Gabriel.
Gabriel Jesus. You are playing against a team.
So you think they need a striker?
They need that presence.
Was Arsenal's season, in terms of last season, a successful season?
When you say successful, success is relative. There is not one definition for success.
Was Arsenal's season a successful season? We all know success is very relative. In the context of Arsenal and the Premier League, would you consider their season a success? They've made it to the Champions League in God knows how many years now. Mm-hmm. They were second only to Manchester City. The way they pushed City to the title, I think that very few teams have been able to do that in the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. City doing 5 in 6. Only Liverpool have been able to do that. Even when Manchester United were second, they didn't push City this much. So, holistically, looking at Arteta, player development and everything, holistically, was Arsenal's season, would you consider Arsenal's season a success? And if yes, why? If no, why? Then we rate Arsenal's season.
Before I give that, I would just want to ask you a question. It's not rhetoric. Who is the most successful player in the world of football?
That is very different from what we are talking about.
I'm just asking.
I don't know.
Oh.
Because you need to give me parameters.
No. Lucky. When we say success in football, or when you say a player is successful, what are the parameters that we use?
There are a lot of parameters.
Like?
People did not consider
individual accolade. Or individual as an accolade, like best player, and also collected what the person wins in a team.
So there's a lot that's what I'm saying. There are a lot of.
So these are primarily the two major things: individual achievement, winning the Ballon d'Or, winning the best player, winning the player of the match.
Individual goals you've scored, all those things.
And you went the golden boot. These things, these are success. And what the number of trophies?
That's what I'm saying. I can't tell.
When we are saying the most successful player in the world, in terms of trophies, we always mention Dani Alves. Individual accolades. These two players are the ones who are shading every other person. If you are saying it and you go directly and say that success has to do with the team winning the league, you are trying to say that I'm coming. At the end of the season, apart from City, every other team is not successful.
I never said that.
No. I'm not saying you've said that. I'm just putting something across that when an individual says that the success of a team has to do with at the end of the season who won the league. You are trying to say that every other team, the 19 teams.
So how would you rate Arsenal season, or has Arsenal season been
I can only
be a
say
success?
that Arsenal is successful or not based on what they went into the season with. That is the only thing I can use to base it on. A team like Brighton have become very. I don't think they were expecting to play in Europe.
So, looking at Arsenal's probably
now I'll give you the reasons
goals for the season.
Yes.
In terms of what they want to achieve, I will not sit here and tell you from the horse's own mouth. Arteta said at the start of the season we are going to win the league, or ABC. The Edu, those with the boardroom said this. I do not know.
Nobody knows.
But
that.
we can speculate.
Yeah.
Based on player signing, based on the manager's words here and there, some few interviews here and there.
No problem.
Based on that, is Arsenal season successful?
Now I would say Arsenal have been very successful. Okay. They were not the most successful.
But it has been a success.
Success is, like I said, it is something that is, we call it is a discontinuous.
Now, why do you say that?
Sorry.
Why do you say that?
The reason is that Arsenal was able to achieve a few things that they had not been able to get in the years before. One of them was that the last time Arsenal played in the Champions League was in 2017. And since then, the main competition outside England that they have been in was the Europa League. They had played in the Europa League, and there were even sometimes that they were out of the Europa League. I won't even talk about the type of signings they did, because the signings, if you put all of them together, you realize that, of course, the money is substantial. So I wouldn't even put that one into retrospect. Arsenal were successful in that one. They were able to attain
quickly because of time.
Champions League football. That is one. Two, they made an improvement on last season's position.
That's true.
Because if you are in A, if you are a student, and you were once an F student, and the next exams you get to E, I wouldn't chastise you. Of course, our aim is that you get to an A, but you didn't stay in F. That is success.
Okay.
That is true. Three was that you could see that this is a team that did not waste money on the market.
That's true.
Because success is not just on the field. It also has to do with the team. The team is a business venture. They are supposed to make money.
So Arsenal let go of Aubameyang. They sold Lacazette.
They got
let
money.
Go of a lot of players.
A lot of these players.
Then they brought in the players they brought in to have not been bad buys. Zinchenko has been a good buy.
Partey was already there.
And Gabriel Jesus was a good buy.
And William Saliba.
Trossard was a good buy. William Saliba is an Arsenal player. Just went alone. They brought him back. So all the players they brought in have been key elements of the team.
So we can pardon them for the fact that they were on the verge of winning the league. They didn't win the league.
But they are doing it.
But they have become successful.
City. So you think that Arsenal season is successful?
It's successful.
Rate Arsenal seasons.
Now Arsenal season.
A plus, A, B plus.
Where they were, it is an A.
For you, based on where Arsenal was coming from or is coming from.
It is the same in the state of Manchester United between 2016-17 and 2017-2018.
Okay.
Mourinho took the team. Before he took the team had won an FA Cup. He came in, he won the Europa, he won the EFL Cup, and he won whatever. The next season, this is a season that City won the league with the points United won were actually more than the point that actual Arsenal won this season. It could have won them the league. And they played in a season that they were competing against City, who were the champions, Chelsea, who were the previous champions, and United was able to become second. And Mourinho, he actually knew the team he had. He knew where the team was coming from. And the last time United was anywhere close to first, apart from being fourth, was 2012, 2013. So between 2012, 2013 and 2017, 2018, and he brings the team to second.
Wrap up quickly.
That is being successful. So for me, Arsenal season has become very successful.
Who has been Arsenal's most successful, or in this season, Arsenal's best player?
A lot of players or a lot of people talk about.
So the list, the notable list out there are just three players. So
Saka.
there is 1, Bukayo Saka. There's 2, Martin Odegaard. And there's 3, Gabriel Martinelli.
The three behind the striker.
Yeah.
You see,
some of you feel that
it used to be
some
Partey.
of
Partey
you
used to be in
feel
there.
like Rams, because Partey's dip in form
was too sharp.
Some of you feel like Ramsdale should be in the shout.
Ramsdale too,
but who is Arsenal's player of the season for you?
Undoubtedly, it should be Bukayo Saka.
I agree with you.
Bukayo Saka was a revelation. You see, he was one of those players who has been able to thrive under about 3-4 managers.
He carried the team.
Yes, from as young as he is, from Arsene Wenger leaving, you had Unai Emery coming in. He was playing. You had what's the name of that guy? Freddie Ljungberg coming in. And you also had 4 different managers
quickly
within this short time. So
before we sign out, Arteta in Europe next season. How do you see Mikel Arteta in Europe? Do you think that Arsenal would really, make a shout in the Champions League, really push it out there in the Champions League, really trouble teams in the Champions? Is this team? We saw this team in the Europa League, and they capitulated at the hands of Sporting Lisbon. I do not know whether it was strategic because they wanted to concentrate on the league.
I actually gave them the advice that they should
concentrate on the Europa League
because that was the most realistic.
I think that they should have taken that advice. Yeah, they could have won that trophy.
Yeah, that was
and gone ahead with a major trophy.
Yeah,
but Arsenal missed out. But you've seen Arteta in Europe this season. Next season, do you think that he's going to elevate his game and elevate Arsenal to the next level?
Now, we all know that playing in Europe is a different ball game altogether. It's not about how you play your domestic. Even Almighty City had to try and try. Now, their absence from the whole European, that is the elite European competition, would really be a problem to them. We don't know them to be a cathedral. If they were a cathedral, we could say that the aura around their previous achievements could cater like AC Milan. It did for AC Milan this season, but they are not a cathedral. So we shouldn't expect so much like extraordinarily buzzing performance. At least getting out of the group stages, maybe around 16. We don't remember the last time when Wenger was in charge. They went almost 16, 17 years, always advancing from the group stages. So we are expecting them at least based on where they find themselves. If they are not lucky, they can find themselves in the group of Barcelona and these big teams. Some of them too were second. Juventus didn't go. Inter Milan, AC Milan. So
you are not looking at Arteta making any major
inroads. No.
Okay, so I think that this will be a major learning, process or a major learning, stage for Arteta in terms of being a coach in European competitions. I saw him in the Europa League, and I think that he didn't, disappoint. Though there were times, especially in that Sporting Lisbon game, I think that Arsenal should have actually won that game and gone ahead to probably compete in the final and see if they could dethrone Sevilla. But I look at Mikel Arteta, and I think that he's a manager that has grown over the years under Pep Guardiola, and a manager and under his own mastery. At Arsenal in the last 3-4 seasons, he's matured. He's learning, as he goes on. I do not expect Arsenal to, perform magic in Europe. I do not even think that. I do not know the group they would eventually end up in, but I do not think Arsenal will go past the round of 16. I think that Arsenal's best will probably be qualifying out of the group, and that will probably be.
So that will be success for them.
That will be for me. That will be success for them because, one, the players are young. 2, the manager is young in terms of competition in Europe. We've seen how the Champions League and its dynamics, you need to go through a certain level of experience for you to eventually, get your hands on it. And I look at the quality of players that Arsenal possess this last season and what they are trying to add on this season. Yes, they are bringing on Kai Havertz. Experience in a way in terms of the Champions League, leading Chelsea.
Yeah, of course.
Declan Rice leading West Ham in the conference. But I do not think that these players are so seasoned and experienced enough to lead the charge for Arsenal in the Champions League. So I'm not expecting Arsenal to make any major inroads. But I think that as a whole, Arsenal's season have been a success and is a success. Like Percy said, if you look at where they were coming from, 8th position last season, and the expectation going into this season, not many pundits, not many people expected Arsenal to be where they are or to end up as second place in the league, but they did. So kudos to Mikel Arteta, kudos to the entire management. I think that they are signing some pretty good players, apart from Kai Havertz, that I feel, Charlie, is a big deal. But guys, thank you so much for joining us. So sorry that because of time we couldn't, read your messages, but we love you. We appreciate every single message that you sent. We couldn't do the Asamoah bit. He has retired. The news is still there. We'll bring it back probably next week. Should Jan be considered in the league of greatest Ghanaian players to have played for the Black Stars? Thank you so much. All those that did the watching, those that watched us on YouTube Live, those that did the listening on Tidy FM 99.1 as well. We appreciate the support, and make sure you keep the subscription going, and make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. Good night.